Hello and welcome to part 8 and of the final webinar for our Advancing Healthy Aging webinar series. Before we go into details, I first want to express my deepest gratitude to each of you who have logged in. Not only today, but so many of you have logged in over the last 8 months. Your support is a gift to our Healthy Aging team and the whole Colorado State University system. Inspired by its land-grant heritage, Colorado State University is committed to excellence, setting the standard for public research universities in teaching, research, service, and extension for the benefit of the citizens of Colorado, the United States, and the world. We hope this series has met these expectations and inspired you to have more aging conversations within your circles and within your communities. With that being said, this series is designed with you in mind to provide valuable insights and tools that can empower you to navigate age-related conversations and support healthy aging within your local community. Our team would like to thank the USDA Rural Health and Safety Education Grant, which has made this series possible. We are collecting data and feedback on this series, so at the end of the webinar and in a follow-up email, we'll share a link to an optional quick survey in both English and Spanish. Our team very much appreciates your participation in this survey. Your data will be kept confidential and used to inform future programming and other healthy aging initiatives for CSU Extension. We will be answering questions at the end, so please add your questions in the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. The chat will be closed for participants, so please take a minute to find the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. Lastly, I would like everyone to know that this webinar is being recorded in both English and Spanish, with the recordings being sent to your email by tomorrow. Now let's get started. I'm particularly excited about this session because it highlights the many ways CSU Extension is engaging with communities and faculties on campus to engage in meaningful research that improves the lives of older adults, which you can take and apply in your own communities. We have a great lineup. First, I'll start out with an incredible program I manage for the state, which has transformed access to evidence-based healthy aging education for all Coloradans, but particularly rural and underserved populations which are hungry for education and meaningful connection. Next up, we'll have Peggy Stoltenberg. Peggy is the program manager at Colorado State University's Northeast Regional Engagement Center, where she leads innovative community initiatives focused on healthy aging and inclusive outreach. A founding member of the Logan County Council on Aging and a contributor to state-level age-friendly policy efforts, Peggy brings a collaborative, equity-centered approach to rural aging issues. Her leadership has been recognized through numerous awards and grants, including the Colorado Creative Industry Arts and Society Grant and the 2023 Citizen of the Year honor from the Logan County Chamber of Commerce. After that, we'll have Natalie Bachmeyer. Natalie is the CSU Health Extension Coordinator. She received a master's in public health from the Colorado School of Public Health at CSU, focusing on One Health. She is passionate about building partnerships with and learning from communities to support social connection, healthy living, and holistic well-being. Finally, we'll have the dynamic duo, Dr. Janelle Pesena and Madeline Conway. Dr. Pesena is an occupational therapist and assistant professor in the Occupational Therapy Department at Colorado State University. Janelle earned her PhD in Health and Rehabilitation Sciences from Ohio State University and completed a postdoctoral fellowship at the Geriatric Research, Education, and Clinical Center at the Rocky Mountain Regional VA and the University of Colorado Anschutz Medical Campus, Department of Physical Therapy. Janelle's research centers on helping implement evidence-based programming that supports adults and older adults with disabilities. Finally, Madeline Conway is a doctoral occupational therapy student at Colorado State University. She earned a bachelor's from the University of Massachusetts Amherst in biological anthropology and served with the Colorado AmeriCorps for 3 years. Maddie hopes to work in rural and community health rehabilitation. All right, so let's kick it off. It's my pleasure to present a program that I am very excited about. The Aging Mastery Program has been included as part of a really incredible grant that has allowed us to do a lot of work in the aging space. The USDA Rural Health and Safety Education Grant focuses on rural and frontier communities across the country, and so we focused ours in here in Colorado. The goals of the grant are to increase confidence of extension professionals to engage in and respond to aging needs in their communities, specifically extension folks who are not typically experts in healthy aging. So we want everyone to have some baseline skills to engage in those aging conversations. Next, because of our success in the Aging Mastery Program, we wanted to create expanded education and training for the Aging Mastery Program based on feedback we've received from the field, and we'll get to that here in just a moment. And then finally, our goal was to expand access of the Aging Mastery Program to 8 new rural sites in Colorado, ensuring access which is responsive to each community's needs, because we know each community has different characteristics within them that make them special. We do want to acknowledge that the Aging Mastery Program is being discontinued by the National Council on Aging at the end of June of 2026, but we are still charging forward with this grant because we really believe in the program and the concepts within the program, and we'll talk a little bit about that later on. So a little bit about the program and why we're bringing it to you today is there really is not a lot of evidence-based programs that address this many aspects of healthy aging. The Aging Mastery Program is 10 sessions that can be done over 10 weeks, or folks can do it twice a week over 5 weeks. There's really a lot of flexibility in the program and addresses all of these aspects. Gratitude and longevity, exercise, nutrition, and hydration. Advanced care planning has been a really big one, and community engagement. Our work at Aging Mastery Program with CSU began back in before COVID days with my colleague Peggy Stoltenberg, who you'll hear from in a few minutes, bringing this program up to Sterling, Colorado, which is in the Northeast region. Those yellow and red dots you'll see on the map are folks that implemented it within the first couple of years, and then the blue dots are folks that have been interested in implementing the program or who have implemented the program within the last year or so. So we really have been able to get reach across the state in a variety of areas, urban corridor through Fort Collins, where CSU is located, in Denver, all the way down to Southwest Colorado. You'll see a little green dot, and that is with our Mountain Ute Reservation. We've built a really great partnership with them through my colleague, Greg Felsen, and we'll talk a little bit about him here in a shortly as well. And we really see bridging gaps in communities for older adults through 2 unique ways. First, and we know there's a lot of research around out about social connection and its relation to physical health. The Aging Mastery Program has provided a lot of older adults with opportunity to connect with people they haven't had the ability to because of COVID, and that's really been one very special part of the program. Next, it combines the social connection with health education. Like I said, it covers all of those categories such as health and healthy exercise and sleep, and bringing the social connection and health together. It has been an incredible opportunity. And so how did we do this? We really had to get creative. Working within rural areas, there are definitely rural challenges that we work through, and not everything hits. But we had to do a lot of listening, and really love to listen in these communities in order to help our participants get everything they want out of it. This first picture is through that Mountain Ute tribe. My colleague is on the left there. Greg Felsen is his name. And that community has really embraced the Aging Mastery Program over the last several years. They've done it at least once a year. In order to do programming with our Mountain Ute tribe, it's really important to get permission from the tribe. And in order to have these conversations, these programs have to be and should be geared towards the needs of the people. They had a lot of robust conversations about aging within their tribe and the uniqueness of that. And so it was really important for us to really listen and modify and adapt the program to meet the needs of the Ute Mountain Ute, which has been successful as they've done it year over year. Next, we have a group of ladies down in Southeast Colorado who have very different needs as well too. The southeast area of Colorado has a very high population of Hispanic individuals, and then the region also has some of the worst health outcomes in the state. So the ability to bring older adults together to learn and connect with one another is really important. My colleague Claudia Terrazas teaches this class, including several other colleagues down there as well too. The Southeast region has done at least 5 or 6 locations, 7 or 8 times in the last couple of years with the Aging Mastery Program. So they've really embraced that. This group particularly tells us, and we see this across many of the locations that meet as well, as they form very tight-knit friendships within the class and are always asking, what program is next? What can we do next? I know programming is sometimes hard to get participation in or to recruit from, but that has certainly not been the case from our Aging Mastery programs. Finally, and oops, hold on, there we go. Last but not least, this is a group before I had taken on the program, but Dr. Eric Ishiwata, who is an associate professor of ethnic studies and the director of civil rights and access with CSU Extension, worked with the Denver Regional Council of Governments and their instructors to adapt the written curriculum for the Aging Mastery Program, as it's only available currently in English and Spanish. And they worked with the Denver Council Region of Governments to work with their immigrant and refugee population. Because it was not available in all the languages that they needed, they definitely had to adapt that verbally and switch to a spoken format, because they taught the class within 5 different languages. And they taught it simultaneously, which means there are interpreters speaking at the same time that they're teaching, much like this class. The languages that they spoke in the class were Arabic, French, Swahili, and Tigrinya, and English. And because of this, the learners were able to learn from a lot of different countries and a lot of different cultures. People came from all over the world, and not everybody experiences aging in the same way. Dr. Ishiwata said, we really had to navigate some complex cultural and religious concern from the participants, and that was challenging, but the participants still wanted to come and still wanted to engage, and they had really robust conversations about those challenges. And we really worked with the instructors to figure out how to address this. Feedback from the refugee program manager was that Aging Mastery helped us to break down stigmas, build relationships, establish tactics for building healthy behaviors, and learn from one another. So what were our keys to success in implementing all of these engaging and challenging programs? Our key to success was engaging community champions from the communities that they come from. We really worked to identify influential community leaders, and that doesn't just mean somebody in a formal leadership position. Those are really people who step up and want to lead in their community and have influence. We rely on recognizing these individuals, and they embody trust and credibility within their communities to be able to teach. So we come in, identify these leaders. In this picture, you'll see the second gal from the left. Her name is Sarah Delgado, and she's been an incredible leader. You'll hear about her more with Peggy, I'm sure, but we've worked with her. She was the one who led the expansion of our Spanish Aging Mastery program. Oops. And that has turned into so many other opportunities for the Latino community. We provide training and support for these leaders. A lot of them maybe have taught in the past, but a lot of them have not. So we really work with the technical assistance of the program to help them feel confident in order to teach the program. And then finally, the role of the champions is not just teaching, but facilitating discussion and engagement and making sure that they have that rich, culturally relevant context to the curriculum, which I think is the differentiator in a successful program. In this, when we work with our community's leaders, we work very intentional in providing fair compensation for our leaders to teach this program. We could not do this without them, and their contributions to the program and to the university are tantamount. We work on engaging them, and then it also creates sustainable leadership over time. We want these programs to come and be in the community for a long time, and what comes out of the program, so extensions of these programs, to live there for a long time and not just be a one and done. And because of these efforts, we've been able to co-write grants. We've been able to co-publish abstracts, particularly this last fall. Sarah Delgado, Peggy, who you'll hear from, Natalie, my supervisor, Sue Schneider, and Dr. Erica Shawada were able to be published in an abstract for the Gerontological Society on our work with the Aging Mastery Program. So it's not just a program, it really is an opportunity to create connections within communities. So you're wondering, the program may be going away, but there are opportunities to connect before that happens. Part of our grant, like I said, is to recruit new sites for the Aging Mastery Program. So this is an opportunity for senior centers, for public health, for nonprofit organizations to connect. You do have to be a rural or frontier county through the USDA formula. So if you're interested, let me know. I will let you know if you qualify or not. And we hope that you'll be able to implement within the next year. If you are chosen, you will receive a fully funded program with coaching and technical assistance from myself and our Aging Mastery team across the state, as well as Dr. Christine Fruhoff and our faculty in gerontology at Colorado State University. If you're not already connected with an extension office, we will create a partnership with your local extension office to work through the program. And let's see, the additional funding you'll receive includes language access for Spanish-speaking populations, or another language if that is what is best for your community, and also includes everything for mileage, food, swag, and program incentives in your program. So really this is the full package if you're interested in engaging in healthy aging initiatives in rural communities. We also have evaluation support, which you could receive data back once all of it's processed at the end, which you can then use within your community. So if you're interested, just let us know, and we'd be happy to connect you with your extension office. And then finally, you guys will get these slides. This is an incredible 16-minute video that really goes in depth into the Aging Mastery Program and how we've worked through it in the state. So when you get these slides, you'll have access to this video. And there's some additional articles that we've been featured in for Aging Mastery through the National Council on Aging and the CSU system. So thank you so much, and we will pass it on to our next presenter.
All right. Thanks, Ginger, so much for that wonderful presentation. And you really have, I guess, worked up to me telling a wonderful story about Aging Mastery and how we have developed that into a lot of things in the Logan County community up here in Northeast Colorado. So one of the things that I would like to talk about is from the Aging Mastery course. Ginger had talked about how there are so many things that this has spearheaded in our communities, and particularly in my situation, we have used community partnerships and the arts to help move forward in our communities. So as I mentioned, I am up here in Logan County, which is way up in the northeast corner of Colorado. Logan County is a rural agricultural county with a population of about 21,000 in 2022. And looking at the specific unique populations in our community that we were really wanting to reach with extension programming, between 2010 and 2022, The share of the population that grew the most was our Hispanic Latino community, and they did increase in percentage to be 17.4% of our community. And there were very few bilingual resources, programs, or events to celebrate Latino culture or heritage. About that. And then also between 2010 and 2022, the age group that grew the most was our 65 plus age group, and its population increased 22.2%. And there were also a limited number of resources, programs, or events that we had available to celebrate healthy aging. So I want to just go ahead and show the social ecological model of health, which is something that we base a lot of our health work on. And as you'll see just briefly here, we are looking at the different circles of influence that some of our work can have in health. And so we can go from the individual, the first kind of circle of folks that we are reaching is that individual and interpersonal group. So you first reach the individual and then kind of pass it on to the family and community engagement. And that goes all the way out there to communities, organizations, eventually reaching policy change and then a culture change. And like I said, I wanted to talk about the power. We have found a lot in the power of arts in health promotion. So the World Health Organization did a review of literature that did show that arts promote physical and mental health and social connection. Arts were found to support behavior change and address social determinants of health. And art does build trust and engagement across communities. And I'm going to give you some examples of some work we've done that shows how these have worked in our community. And I also want to show just a little bit of a modified version of that social ecological model of health. And this reflects directly some areas of influence we can have using the arts for health promotion. So we're going to go ahead and talk about direct health benefits that art can have on people, how we can improve data, awareness, and education, and political and sociocultural change. So I always need to stop and tell a story of how aging mastery has bloomed in our community. So Sarah Delgado, as Ginger talked about, was a participant of the first Spanish language aging mastery class that we held, actually across the state. That was the first Spanish class that we held. She really enjoyed the class, and she came up to me afterwards and she said, "Peggy, we want to do more." I thought, I don't know what that means, but listening to the community is really key in all of this work that we do. So really wanting to truly learn what she meant by they want to do more, I said, "Sarah, what do you want to do?" And she says, "Peggy, we want to make things." And I thought, okay, tell me more. And so she showed me a picture that she found on Pinterest, and it was some plastic forks that were glued to a plastic pop bottle, and it made this really cute little vase. And it was really cool, but I thought to myself, I'm not sure how I can, number one, sell this to CSU, but also like, how is this going to help our community? And what we found out is just the very basics. One of the very first and easiest circles of influence that we have is on direct health benefits. So I found that through, after this aging mastery class had brought this attention to CSU Extension and some of the things that we can do, we could create something that would have direct health benefits. The direct health benefits include increasing social connections. You can increase belonging and cultural pride. This led to participation in different wellness activities, improve the sense of physical and mental well-being, and can even increase academic achievement and job satisfaction. So this is a flyer from the program that Sarah created. She very much created it herself. She was our community champion. I was just there in the background cheering her on and helping provide her with resources. So she created a program for us called Es Tiempo de Crear, which means it's time to create. And in that, we did art projects. There was discussion. We created a community. We made those connections and support. They learned new skills. But what happened that we didn't really realize was going to happen is this also led to a larger circle of influence, which includes service, advocacy, and developing leaders. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that as I go on. Some of the really important things that I wanted to share with you, though, and this actually is a list that came from a presentation that Sarah and I did, and this is a list that Sarah shared directly with me. Find your community champion. It's really important in some communities to invite participants personally, so that personal invite can make all the difference. You can put out all the marketing you want, and some people just are not going to find that appealing to them, I guess, or they don't really think that that is speaking to them. So a lot of times that personal invitation will make a lot of difference. Show excitement about the class, set a goal, hold a potluck. We always say have food, interpretation, and childcare. Those are the basics, just to provide that first level of showing that you care about the community and pulling them in. As you saw in my last slide of the marketing that Sarah created, have your marketing simple, bright, leave people wanting more. Don't list all of the classes of aging mastery on your flyer. Do just a little tiny tidbit and make people want to know more about it. And as always, listening to your community, ask for their feedback and then act on it. Make sure you involve them in activities and then try new things, even if they're uncomfortable. So the next circle of influence I wanted to talk about is improved data. So not only can we have direct health benefits, but especially by partnering with my extension agents. I'm not an extension specialist, I'm more of a connector. So I partnered a lot with my local extension specialist, Jackie Wagner, and you will see her here during her Healthier Way program. Uh, they have a really cool in-body scanner machine. And so she is really making connections and relationships with the Latino community by involving them in her Healthy Way program. And then you'll see on the second picture there, a group of people signing up for the program, everyone from older adults to some small children there who are also, they weren't in the Healthier Way program, but they become part of that family and that relationship that we've built as well. So in improving data, we wanted to look at how art can contribute to our knowledge of health needs, and then in the development of effective health resources and programming in the older adult and Spanish-speaking population. So one of the first programs that we did in a bilingual fashion was Dining with Diabetes. This is the theories that have been done in English many times in our community, but had not been done bilingually in English-Spanish. And as you can see, the culinary arts is definitely an art and something that speaks to many communities. So Jackie was able to work with a community leader in our community to co-lead this Dining with Diabetes class. We had someone that represented the Latino culture and someone that represented extension in the front of the room. So that worked really well. And one of the things that we learned from the Dining with Diabetes program from really listening to the community was they really wanted some cultural recipes and examples. And they really wanted more in-depth discussions about specific topics. So let's learn more about tortillas. We usually eat tortillas with our meals. We don't have sandwiches on bread, just some different things that they really wanted to talk about. Hands-on activities and more time. Like they just love that discussion and getting together in the community. And again, this helped us create data about what our Latino and Spanish-speaking community really wanted and needed in a health program. A Healthier Way, as I mentioned, was the next program that went from that. Community identified modifications from the regular program that we did only in English was they really wanted an in-person cohort, and they really wanted to add some pizzazz to it. They wanted some in-depth discussions, again, the hands-on activities, culinary classes, and most of all, fun. So you'll see Sarah here leading one of those sessions, this was actually our final session, and the participants had a Jeopardy game where they won ingredients to make their favorite smoothie. So that was something we added that was just a lot of fun. The next sphere of influence that I wanted to talk about was the awareness and education. So in the art, or using the arts, it's pretty evident, I guess, that stories, performances, exhibits, those are all more interesting and meaningful than a scholarly or academic presentation or statistics. Actually seeing something and learning through art has been so much more meaningful to our community. And these art farms are useful tools for increasing the mutual understanding and cultural relevance. So we did a variety of these arts. We had some writing workshops where people could celebrate experiences of their family and loved ones, and experiment with writing stories to tell to tell the stories of their loved ones, their family. And we found that again in these writing workshops, many of their memories and their stories of families actually revolved around food. So the culinary arts and the writing both came into that. We had a cultural book tour. So I went to school with a gal out here in Northeast Colorado who became a famous writer. And she went around and did some book readings for the local elementary students, but she also did some book readings for our older adults. And you'll see in this picture here that our older adults, as well as our disabled community, came together. And this was really a wonderful experience for our community to come together around the cultural or around the storytelling. We had the Latin Independence Day, which again was a celebration of Latin culture. We shared the culture and history of Latinos in Northeast Colorado with the larger community. So these were all performance and art-based. And then we had a take note session where we put musical instruments in the hands of all the children in Colorado. The purpose was to put musical instruments and instruction in the hands of all the children in Colorado, specifically focused on rural areas. And we found some really cool intergenerational and mentoring opportunities as, again, people were sharing their culture and just their stories and building relationships through the arts. And then we'll come to the political and social cultural change. So art really can humanize populations and issues, and it offers a chance for people to see each other through a new light. And these perspective shifts can then lead to sociocultural change. So art and organizations can partner with health professionals and increase or change policies and increase health outcomes. So one of the things that our community that was originally involved in the Spanish Aging Mastery did was became a part of the Logan County Coalition on Aging. And they helped our community here in Logan County become an age-friendly community and write our strategic plan for healthy aging here in Northeast Colorado, as well as put on an artistic event called Embracing Aging on the Square, which was all about healthy aging. The Rural Action Project was an amazing opportunity that we had to bring the community together. So here in this picture, you'll see the police chief, the city manager, some people from dentist's office, some feedlot workers, just everybody coming together to co-create a solution for our community. And they chose an art-related thing, of course, which was Cinco de Mayo. We've had several years of our amazing Cinco de Mayo celebration here in Logan County. And it was so much more than a cultural celebration. It definitely did that, but we really highlighted the contributions that Latino businesses and culture have made to our, our community. And we have given entrepreneurs, many of these folks had never been in a show or a vendor fair or anything. So we gave these opportunities a chance to really put their foot out there and put their product or their service in front of the public. And then one of the greatest things that came out of our Rural Action Project was our Hometown Heroes Picnic. This was the second year we did that Rural Action Project, and this was also decided upon by the community. But they really wanted an opportunity for law enforcement, first responders, and the Latino community to get to know one another before they were in a crisis situation. So we thought that was a great idea. We put together a big old barbecue, or we helped the community put together a big old barbecue with our Family Resource Center. And you'll see here in the picture on the top left, that's our police chief flipping burgers for the rest of the community. The top right there is I think he's a chief operations executive at our local hospital, is doing face painting for our community. And then that's a picture of our volunteers there on the bottom. So that was another wonderful event and a way that art brought the community together. And then a direct quote here from Sarah Delgado after a lot of these art-related projects that all stemmed out of our Aging Mastery program was, "We are here. We feel included and strong now, like a part of the community, because we see the whole community's support. Now we know that working together is the best way to progress and be a stronger community." So bringing it all together, just mentioning that it's easy, I think, for all of us to go ahead and hit that direct health influence on people, but we can aim for more than one of those domains. We can do the direct health, we can do the advocacy, we can bring in the data. Adding those domains doesn't necessarily require the creation of new programs. Instead, just look at creating partnerships, looking for new ways to outreach, and use your imagination. Be creative, like Ginger had mentioned. So I wanted to again just show this circle that I'm talking about and about the different levels of change, and talk about how can you, how can we apply similar strategies? Have you thought about using arts in your health promotion? Using arts for our health promotion has been just one of the greatest ways to reach out and connect with everyone in our community. Um, and like I said, how can you just think about how you can apply similar strategies to help the healthy aging in your community? All right. Thank you all. And I will go ahead and stop sharing and pass it on to our next presenter.
Wonderful. Thank you, Peggy, for all of those contributions. Really, Aging Mastery has made a big difference in so many ways, and that's just one program. You people have done amazing work, and you've done amazing work within your community. All right, next up we have Natalie Buckmeyer. I'm excited to introduce her. She's done an amazing job with our team and is more than just a health coach for adults.
All right, good morning, everyone. I am going to share, or good afternoon now, and share my screen. Oh, wrong screen. Oh, you can see my slides. Awesome.
There you go. That's good.
All right, so I'm going to be talking today about a opportunity to engage in a training called GRIT. GRIT stands for the Greater Resilience Information Toolkit, and it was developed by our partners at the Lyda Hill Institute for Resilience at the University of Colorado at Colorado Springs. And it is a component of a larger program that we are partnering with the University of Colorado Springs, the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Museum, and CSU Extension to create Team Strong. So this is, again, one part of a larger project, and this part is really focusing on older adults. So first, I just kind of want to lead us in a little bit of a reflection activity that was really inspired by an article that I read at the beginning of this week. This New York Times article up here in the right-hand corner entitled "My Miserable Week in the Happiest Country on Earth." And this article was written by Molly Young, who is a journalist and is really interested in looking at social connectedness and this happiness scale. And so for those of you who don't know, every 3 years, the Pew Research Center comes out with a big long list that ranks countries across the world on their levels of happiness. And how do they do that, you may wonder? So for 1 year, every year for 3 years, the Pew Research Center reaches out to 1,000 people in every country and asks them this question right here. So they get a cumulative of 3,000 responses from every country and average the responses, and that is how they come up with this happiness scale. So the question is that I would like you all to reflect on for just 30 seconds, maybe close your eyes or jot some notes down on a piece of paper, is please imagine a ladder with steps numbered from 0 at the bottom to 10 at the top. The top of the ladder represents the best possible life, and the bottom of the ladder represents the worst possible life for you. On which step of the ladder would you say you personally feel you stand at this time? So I want you to reflect on that question and maybe think about some of the components or characteristics in your life um, that impact why you are where you are at on this ladder, with no judgment, good or bad, about where you stand. Just kind of reflect on that. All right, so hoping that I gave you enough time for you to just kind of spit out or think through your immediate thoughts here. And something that was really interesting about this article, as you can kind of get from the title, is that when the author showed up in Finland, so this report was Finland has been near the top, either top 1 or 2 for the past decade. When she showed up, she went to Finland in February to really study the culture and what makes them so happy. And when she got there, she was cold and it was gray. And she had read all of these stories about how there was plants everywhere and none of that was existent. And she was just very confused on why these people are so happy and what is going on in Finland, because she was not seeing it from her first day and her first experience just walking through this country. So, what she did get to when she started to really immerse herself in the community. So I have 2 quotes here. So this top one is an image from their public library that she went to, and she had talked about how a lot of moms gathered at the public library of all ages with their children of all ages, what really looked like to be from all different walks of life together and just parent together in this public space. And then she had shared this one specific story about how one of these mothers had placed her baby, a child no more of 9 months, in a high chair at a library cafe, handed him a vegetable puree, and then left for 20 minutes to fetch some books. When she came back, we exchanged smiles. Right. So this really alludes and, not promoting, if this is not doesn't feel safe for all of us, but this really just alludes to the sense of safety that this mom feels in her community to be able to leave her child in what she felt was a safe space, um, and take care of some of her own needs as well. The second thing that came up that was alluding to, this true happiness and the characteristics that this country possesses that allows their people and their population to be so happy. She had talked about, there's saunas everywhere, but kind of the counter side to the saunas being in all of these public facilities is cold plunging and the practice of cold plunging. And I know this has gotten to be kind of a popular practice in our Western culture too, in the wellness culture. But this has been a really traditional and historical practice in Finland, where they take these deep cold plunges. And so her quote here was, "The bitter taste in my mouth as though I'd been struck by lightning and followed by a sense that my cells were being rearranged." So this really visceral reaction of like danger, right? And then she said she looked up and a sauna goer on the deck began to clap. And that lone note of approval inflated me with enough pride that I floated for a few seconds before climbing back up that ladder. So, really pointing to this sense of community and social connection and support that is offered, that is also leading to this happiness in Finland and their communities. So, I have a point here. What I am getting to is that there are some of these inherent things that really create happiness, and a sense of safety and community support are 2 of those things. And they are also 2 things um, that make up the 5 core principles of grit. So again, back to this training, the Greater Resilience Information Toolkit. Um, they are based on these 5 core principles of psychologic first aid. That first, number 1, being sense of safety. The second, number 2, is calming. Number 3 is connectedness. Again, something that I had mentioned. 4 is hope. And 5 is and collective efficacy or competence. And so this training is based on these 5 principles. It's a 2.5-hour long virtual training for adults. Anyone can access it. I will say, so it's a training composed of 5 modules. And within those modules, there's videos and some reading to do. The videos are only available in English, but all of the videos have subtitles, and it's transcribed word for word. So that is available in Spanish. So there is an opportunity for Spanish speakers to also take this training. And really this training is just learning how to have authentic helping conversations, how to provide that social support that we know so often our family, our friends may need when they're experiencing difficulties, challenges, adversity in their life. And we know that we all do. And we know that we all face challenges and barriers and circumstances in our life that we need support. And at the same time, I think many of us are well aware of the mental health challenges specifically that are being faced in our country. And the data really points to that as well, with 29% or 1 in 3 of high schoolers reporting poor mental health in the past 30 days. 23% of US adults experiencing a mental illness at any given time, and about 12.7 million older adults receiving mental health treatment in the past year. And I don't want to say that, I don't want to make it sound like receiving mental health treatment is, trying to say that they are experiencing mental illness at that time. And it is a positive thing to receive mental health illness, but that also leaves about 85% of older adults who maybe not are receiving mental health treatment, and maybe they don't need to, but they could still use social support, and, helpful conversations with a friend or mentor, to get through some challenges that life will inevitably bring. So how grit works, like I said, it's really just a guide. I heard it explained when I was first learning about the program. It's like, it's really just teaching you how to be a good person, how to engage in helpful conversations. Oftentimes I think people, your friends or family, can come to you with a problem and it's like, well, gee, did I really say the right thing? Am I even being helpful? So this really offers some scaffolding, and a guide essentially to, an evidence-based guide to understand if you are being helpful, in some very specific ways that are, you know, um, provided by the science and explained by science, that these are helpful ways to engage in conversation with people who may be experiencing adversity or a challenging time. So the 5 steps are really teaching you how to make contact. How do you approach that person who, maybe they just lost their job, or maybe they're going through, a divorce or grieving the death of a loved one. You know that their life probably is not as easy as it was last time you saw them. But how do you engage in that conversation? It can be sometimes awkward, uncomfortable. We don't exactly know what to say. We don't want to bring it up, in a way that may be triggering and things. So it really offers, a pathway on how to initiate and make contact and start these conversations. So if it's, hey, I've been thinking about you lately, what's been going on with you? So really just offering some of those easy, tangible ways to initiate conversations. The second step of grit is asking questions about their feelings or distrust. So, hey, I've been thinking about you lately, and I know, that you've been having some, stress related to your job. How's that going? How are you feeling about that? How are you processing that? What's coming up for you with all of this going on? So really just offering these tangible, conversation tactics, and again, how to engage in a kind, helping conversation. The third step is really learning about the person's strengths and highlighting their strengths. So really focusing on, what things are going well for you. Are there things that you've been enjoying lately? Are there things that you've been doing that are taking some of that stress down or offering you a bit of an escape. And what does that look like for you? And maybe how could you do that a little bit more often? Or would you like to do it a little bit more often? How could we talk about maybe coming up with a plan to engage in those joyful things at least once a day? And then the second thing is really adding to their strengths. You know, sometimes maybe people aren't able to say, I've been finding joy. I've been really, you know, they may have been maybe really bogged down and not able to really bring up how they've been finding that joy or identify strengths of their own at that time. And that's okay. But how can you help add to their strengths? So not only how can you help add with available resources, this training will provide you information about available resources that are virtual nationwide, so people can take this training and learn about resources that are truly available to them. And then it also offers you some techniques and strategies for digging into what resources exist for you locally in your own community. So how do you go about even finding them? So that is the fourth component to a grit conversation. And finally, number 5 is just a summary, discuss action steps, and really wrapping it up. So again, this training, really just how to have a kind, helping, authentic conversation with the people you love, knowing that there are going to be challenging things in our lives. And it's a really important component of human relationships to be there and be supportive, and also be supported by your community. So just really wrapping this up, this training is essentially teaching folks how to guide people in the right direction of resiliency, how to build their resiliency. And something that I really took away with me when I completed the training was that we become resilient through effective coping. You know, we're not resilient through by genetic or inherently we're not resilient. We become resilient when we experience challenges, when we experience roadblocks. We effectively cope through those roadblocks and we get through to the other side. We can turn around and say, hey, I made it. I made it through that challenging time. And that builds your resiliency. It shows that next time that a roadblock comes up, you can do the same and you can tap into the same strengths and build on those strengths. And that's a really important component of this training, that everyone has the tools to get through life's challenges. And on top of that, it's supported by science that your perception of being supported, of having people next to you in your community, if you feel like you are supported and have someone to rely on, that's the #1 predictor of well-being and recovery after experiencing trauma or a disaster. So really, you have the opportunity to become a grit coach, to engage in meaningful conversation with your networks through this link that I'm going to put in the chat as soon as I am done talking here. And then just so you all are aware too, not only is there this generic grit coach on how to have helping conversations for anyone, but there's 4 sub grit trainings. 1 grit lead, which is really for businesses or corporate leaders, grit for education and teachers, grit for healthcare workers, and then grit serve for first responders. And they tailor the training a little bit more to those populations. So thank you all very much. And I look forward to any questions at the end of this webinar.
Great. Thank you for sharing that, Natalie, and what a wonderful free resource available in a variety of ways. All right, our final presentation is with Dr. Janelle Pesena and Madeline Conway from our Occupational Therapy Department. Take it away.
Awesome. Thank you. This is great. Really inspiring to hear about different folks' work. Thank you, Ginger, for inviting us to talk today. I wanted to give, I'm a kind of practical, pragmatic gal, and I wanted to give folks some tangible tips to think about how you can make your programming accessible and inclusive, and share some additional resources that will be providing more information on this topic to come. As Ginger said when she introduced me, I'm an occupational therapist and I work in our occupational therapy department at Colorado State in Fort Collins. And whenever I talk with folks, I never assume anyone knows what occupational therapy is. And I wanted to give a brief definition of what we do as occupational therapists. I think when we think about our occupation, right, we often think about our job, what we do for work. But occupational therapists take a more broad, general definition. And so we apply that to anything that occupies your time. And so when we look at our scope of practice, we support folks participate in activities that bring meaning and value to folks' lives. And the acknowledging that the things we do, the things we participate in directly impact our health and well-being. So we help folks participate in their education and work, but we also help folks manage health conditions, get adequate sleep and good quality sleep and rest, helping folks participate in leisure and play, as well as connect with folks socially, and of course, our activities of daily living, like getting dressed and eating and brushing our teeth, to instrumental activities of daily living, like paying our bills and doing laundry, getting in the community. So some ways I've done this, or how this has looked for me. I've been a therapist for 10 years, and I've worked in a variety of different settings, but I currently work in a home and community care. And these are just some pictures of clients helping a client who had a traumatic brain injury participate in his country western band and guitar playing. And this is a client I had. We were having a Dia de Muertos celebration with him and his family. And then this is one of my favorite sessions. This is working with a client on return to drive. And so we went go-karting to help him feel more confident to get behind the wheel again. So this is just an illustration of kind of the things that from an occupational therapy perspective, we try to help folks problem solve through challenges that they might experience, maybe because of an illness or a disability. But we are here for folks to help them participate in what they want to do. Which directly relates to the work I like to do and the research I like to do. So not only do I come at my work with an occupational therapy lens, but I also come with an implementation science lens. And this is just literally a whole field of study dedicated to helping implement evidence-based programming. And so I particularly like to think about how we implement programming that is certainly evidence-based, but also can we do that in an inclusive and accessible way to support folks with disabilities and their loved ones. So within the last year, I started my position at Colorado State University in August of 2023. And I work with the Colorado Agribility Project. And my main mission has been trying to hear, similar to a lot of themes that have been shared today, trying to get a lay of the land and really dig in and listen before I just start jumping into action. And so with it over the course of the last year, I spent some time speaking with folks that work in extension programming across the state to hear what some of their biggest challenges have been around providing programming that reaches folks with disabilities or that is inclusive and accessible. And so within the last year, we've done a lot of listening and have heard folks, and that's helped move us to action. And so this was some of the work I'll share is in direct response to what extension specialists, extension faculty, family and consumer science folks had shared would be helpful to them for providing more inclusive and accessible programming. And so this is a quote that someone shared. They said, unfortunately, I felt like I didn't serve the disability community because I didn't know how to do it well. It's intimidating, especially as a new person in community health education, and it can be. And so we've heard that, that challenge, and we want to help folks reach everyone in their community. And I've been using these terms accessibility and inclusion, and they are really part of a recipe to foster a sense of belonging and foster community and meaningful connection. Accessibility and just ensures that folks who are participating in something, whether they may have a disability or not, that everybody that's participating has an equal or comparable experience. So that could look like being able to hear a speaker or understand the language, even as we have interpretation today. And then inclusion is, of course, directly related to having a similar experience to your fellow participators, is that everyone feels like they belong. So that is a key piece of how we can take some tangible steps toward designing our programming so that folks can participate similarly, but feel included and bolster that sense of community, that sense of connection, and help folks want to keep showing up because they feel like that space was intentionally designed with them in mind. So, in response to what folks shared would be helpful to support their community, it sounds like there was a great need for more education and training on how to reach folks from an accessibility and inclusion lens within extension programming. And so, my co-presenter, Madeline Conway, has been working diligently on developing some training modules for extension specialists, family and consumer science folks as well, on how to offer programming that's inclusive, how to make tweaks to programming, or maybe if you're thinking about reaching out and starting a brand new program, how to kind of design things from the beginning that include good principles to make people feel included and that things are accessible. Folks also, of course, there's always going to be some in-person needs. There are tons of fantastic resources and folks working across the state. We've obviously heard some of those presentations today, but getting you connected with folks in your community is also important. And so another student that's not presenting today, Samantha Yoakum, she has been working on mapping out some of these resources across the state that are explicitly serving folks with disabilities and their loved ones. And then we are also in the process, because certainly education and connection is important, but we don't want folks to feel like they're on an island by themselves, or that they feel in over their head. Everyone has good intentions and wants to, of course, connect with everyone in their community, but we want to make sure folks feel supported. And so we're also exploring what a consultation model with our occupational therapy department could look like, because we do have some fantastic faculty and students in our department that could help you problem solve and brainstorm around accessibility in your programming as well. So I will turn it over to Maddie to share some of our quick tips, things that you can maybe think about within your own programming, and or ways to design programming that's helps folks feel like they belong.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the warm handoff, Janelle. Um, Janelle and I talk a lot about how competence isn't totally real, but curiosity is. So you can't know everything. Everyone's aging experience, everyone's disability experience is different. But we all need places to get started. And it can feel, as the person who said the quote that Janelle shared earlier mentioned, it can feel really intimidating, because we don't want to say the wrong thing. So we end up saying nothing at all. So these are emphasis on the starting tips for accessibility and inclusion. These are some ways to get the conversation started. So this first one is to clear clutter and take advantage of already accessible spaces. So when we think of physical accessibility, we often think of costly renovations, and that might be the gold standard, but it's expensive and it's not always necessary, not to mention not always possible. So accessibility really starts with what might seem obvious and therefore is usually overlooked. So clearing the ground of clutter, especially around doorways, for someone who is using a wheelchair, the best idea is to keep a 5 foot by 5 foot turning radius to make sure that they are able to navigate spaces without running into anything. And then in hallways or aisles between desks and chairs, if you're in an in-person space, try to keep those 3 feet wide. And if there are fixtures that stick out from the wall, like a water fountain or something like that, you can place cones in the ground around them. So folks with low vision or who are looking at the ground as they're using a walker get a little bit of a heads up that there might be something ahead of them. And then if the building isn't uniformly accessible, as a lot of old buildings aren't, think about holding programs in the most accessible place possible. This is usually the largest room on the ground floor. Sometimes this means holding it outside. And we'll get to in a moment how to problem solve like virtual accessibility if physical accessibility isn't always possible. The second physical accessibility tip is to scope out accessible parking and send directions to participants in advance. So this can be a huge relief for people to know that there is accessible parking. Because that means that they will just be able to get to a space. Just that very first step in participation is being able to get to a space. So the three key characteristics of accessible parking are wider spaces, adjacent access aisles, and straightforward access to the meeting space. So, an accessible parking spot doesn't have to be a formal designated spot. Just look for a flat space on solid ground that's at least 13 feet wide. So, the rule of thumb is 8 feet for the car, 5 feet for the access aisle. Vans retrofitted for wheelchairs are often wider. And just this morning, I had the experience of having to shimmy out of my car because someone was parked so close to me. And so for someone who is using a side door to exit a van in a wheelchair or with a walker or other mobility aid, that can be a huge, often overlooked access barrier is being able to open up that side door and get out with that mobility aid. Um, and then our third tip is to orient people to benches or include places to rest. This is another big source of relief for people. Fatigue is common with aging, and not having to worry about places to rest can really enhance participation in your programming. So you can point out these places before you start your program, and just to normalize resting as a way to conserve energy. And then if you're outside and it's in the summer, right, try to find resting places that are in the shade, or if it's winter, a resting place that's in the sun. Um, and um, that will help folks who are worried about being able to participate fully, be able to conserve their energy when they're not actually required to move or something like that. And then when it comes to virtual accessibility, so putting instructions for closed captioning in the chat when you start out. So for Zoom, you do this by clicking on the profile picture, going to settings and accessibility. Then there's a button that says show closed captions. And for Teams, you click on those three dots, those more actions, go to language and speech, and then turn on live captions. Um, and then you can also, as I mentioned earlier, consider recording so that people can revisit later. So this is a great idea. If physical accessibility can't be worked around, or someone had to step out for a moment or wasn't able to participate fully due to fatigue or whatever else have you. But if you are in a building where physical accessibility can't be worked around, right, the only room that has the equipment that you need is, for example, on the second floor, but there are no elevators in the building. Um, being able to record it or being able to host it hybrid so people can be in person, but then also online is a great way to ensure accessibility for all. So to record a meeting, Zoom, it's the record button in the meeting controls ribbon on the bottom of the screen. And then in Teams, there's again, you go to the three dots, the more actions button, hit the start recording button. And then Teams does you one better. It will automatically transcribe their meeting using Otter AI if you choose the record and transcribe option, and then it pops up in the same place that you would find the video recording. And then the last tip that we have is to explore built-in accessibility tools. So Microsoft has an accessibility checker, and this will look for anything from the contrast of the text in the background to if the slides are in an order that if someone uses a screen reader for low vision or anything like that, that the screen reader can read it to the person in a way that makes sense to them. So this is even easier to implement than recording or turning on closed captioning. So in Word, you just hit the review button, tech accessibility, and it's the same thing in PowerPoint. It's on that tools ribbon up at the top. And then one last tip is that a lot of people use Canva to make flyers. Canva is great. There's also a website called Venngage that's a similar alternative to Canva, but it has additional automatic accessibility features. So again, we wanted to just give you some tangible tips to get started on accessibility, but just to put the plug in for continuing the conversation with curiosity, because you're never going to know everything that someone's experiencing.
Yeah, that's a great reminder. And just ask folks too. If we're not sure, it's always, folks will always appreciate being asked what will help them fully participate, whether that's in a registration form, a simple question asking if there's anything that would help them more fully participate or engage in your programming. We have linked a bunch of resources, and you will have a copy of this so that you can actually access the things we've shared. But the Americans with Disabilities Act has a fantastic event planning guide, which can certainly be helpful for your programming needs. If you're doing any outdoor or ag-related work, Agribility are fantastic specialists. To our rural rehab specialists are fantastic for helping folks brainstorm through accessing the more rural farm ag environments for sure. As well as there are some inclusive 4-H has some tips that are very helpful as well, and just thinking about families or intergenerational caregivers in the context of our aging series today. Another one of our OT students put together this tool for tech skills for older adults, and there are a lot of features that will help folks walk through how to use and leverage accessibility features in various commonly used digital platforms across Spotify or PowerPoint or text messaging. That is another fantastic resource. There are also a bunch of online trainings through the Alzheimer's Foundation of America that support certainly folks with maybe dementia or caregivers, but also just older adults in general. There's some really fantastic resources and tools there too. And then, of course, you can contact us. So my contact information is listed here, and we're always happy to problem solve and brainstorm together if that could be helpful to you and your work and your community. And of course, we love our people. I worked with a lot of folks. It's been fantastic getting to know folks over the last year, almost 2 years now that I've been in my role. And so thank you for all the folks that we've worked with and have helped leverage and put this on folks' radar, because it's fantastic. We have fantastic people, fantastic programs. I feel fortunate to work with folks. And thank you for your amazing work. This was a quote from some of our listening that we did last year. And so I think this person said, I think it's one of the amazing things about the county specialists. They are truly passionate about aging or education, and they just want people to participate. So thank you for being advocates for your community and all the work that you do as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Janelle, and thank you, Madeline, for coming on. I really appreciate the faculty participation and getting our students involved. It really means a lot. All right, so we do have some Q&A before we finish up here. So if anyone has any questions, please share those in the Q&A feature. I also, oops, let's see, I thought I hit it. Here we go. I also have our evaluation survey in both English and Spanish. So please take a few minutes. It doesn't take more than 3 or 4 minutes to get through that. Really, your input is so valuable in improving these webinars, getting feedback on what programs you would like to see next, and ways we could engage our communities best. Let's see. I don't see any questions in there. I will just say thank you to all of our presenters. I have incredible teammates to work with. It really is an honor to work with a vast amount of expertise and kindness. I really feel lucky to work on this team. So thank you, each of you, for contributing, and for all of our presenters over the last 8 months. Just a few final things before we close up. I have one other special thank you for Allie Eden and Language Justice Matters. They've been with us through this webinar series as well as our caregiver series last year. Their whole team provides amazing service for Colorado State University in ensuring we have access for all Coloradans. So thank you, Allie, and the whole team at Language Justice Matters. Let's see. I think we have just a little bit. Oh, here we go. Yep. Lastly, on the recordings, and to Janelle and Madeline's points, we are working on getting all of our recordings accessible. And so you will get the recording for this session right away in your email, probably by tomorrow. And then we'll have the whole series through the CSU Extension YouTube page, and that will have all of the captioning and language on our slides, and make sure it's accessible for as many people as possible in English and in Spanish. So that might take a little bit of time, but it will be there shortly. So I have everybody's contact information for those who have registered, and that will be out over the summer once it all gets processed. And then in closing, I just hope that you are inspired to take action in your communities, to talk about healthy aging in a positive way, and create space so we can all thrive as we grow older. Thank you so much, and enjoy your day.